Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like.
Podcast also talking a lot of things called sports, football, NFL draft below in the description.
All right, John. Early Saturday morning, coming off a win over Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, Tom Herman was fired. And not only was he was fired for Steve Sarkisian, who's going to coach the national championship game for the Alabama Crimson Tide. What was your first thought when you saw this happen?
My first thought was I saw Tom Herman was fired. So obviously the statement was said a couple weeks ago that he was going to be the coach in 2021.
When they failed to get Urban.
Yeah, my first thought was like, did Urban reconsider? It was just kind of thought of like in that vein. Like, who did they just get? And then you just had to scroll a couple little scrolls to see Sark. And I was shocked, Guy. I mean, I was floored, might be too strong, but really, really, to me, Steve Sarkisian, given where he's at right now, it wasn't that long ago that he was fired the day of showing up to a team meeting really drunk. Now, since then, he's gone to the NFL, went to a playoff game as a coordinator. He's won big with Alabama, but so does everyone as a coordinator, and it feels like he's cleaned up his life. That still feels like Lane Kiffin had to go to FAU and was doing the same thing, kicking everyone's ass. Sark, I would say his incident was legitimately worse. He could not handle his alcohol around his team. Lane was just, they weren't winning, negative, whatever, but it wasn't like didn't have his life together at SC. It was like the team was just, it's pretty nuts, Guy, that he went from Alabama to Texas.
Yeah.
And Lane, they were both similar, like rehab, like had to do a legit, go to FAU. Like, and even Colorado's like a much higher. He turned down Colorado last year, and it turns out he was right. He got fucking Texas.
Who feels like the better offensive coach, Lane or Sark? Feels like Lane. Right?
I know Lane now can handle a team and just be solid. Like Sark was one of the more underwhelming, overhyped coaches. Like Lane has kind of lived up to the hype a little bit since going back to Bama, going to FAU. I think Sark took a lot of heat when he was with the Falcons. Like, it's just.
So I remember now you and I are big Chris Peterson guys when he got the Washington job, when he got it, they wanted to hire him, but Sark was their guy. Sark was their coach, and it was like, do we really fire Steve Sarkisian at this point? He just won 8 games. It's kind of weird. And then SC just hired him and answered Washington's prayers. Steve Sarkisian has coached 7 years, and like you said, his last year as a head coach. His last year at SC, he only lasted 5 games. He's coached more games than Tom Herman, and he's won fewer. Tom Herman's, John, 54-22. That's 71% of his games he won. Sark is 46-35.
I also think, and I know it's just one day and one incident, the firing of Sark that morning on Sunday morning, like Lane got fired on a tarmac, but it was like they lost Arizona State, I remember. It was just football. Their football team was bad. It wasn't like Lane wasn't showing up. Guy, he got remember all the stories and it was going crazy. No one knew what happened. Was he like on drugs? And he got removed from a team meeting. Like, that's fucking insane. That happened not that long ago. What year was that? 15? That's insane. That's crazy.
Well, it is, but to me, it's like, I would say this, like if the people around him are confident and the people hiring him are confident, his alcohol issues are behind him, there's still a question about what's his ceiling as a head coach. Because at Texas,
but my point is, like, it'd be one thing if, like, the one reason the dude at Liberty, Hugh Freeze, is going to be at like Florida or Tennessee soon is like, Hugh Freeze, you get that guy, bro. He is good.
Well, I know.
It's like, Nick say, if I just did the equivalent of like, Dabo's got a little bit of a drinking problem, no one would care. Sark is not Doc Rivers. Your problems outweigh you. Like, he's not even that great of a coach.
This is my point. His ceiling was 9 wins in 7 years. That's the most games he won, and he did it 1 time. And then the other high was 8. That's what I'm saying. It's like Tom Herman.
Didn't Peterson go to the playoffs with a lot of his players?
They went to the playoff in
15.
Well, would have been was it the 16 New Year?
But like
so
Pettis and John season? Ross and those guys were his guys, right? Buda Baker.
Jake Browning felt like a Peterson guy.
But Jake Browning was young. Jake Browning was like a freshman.
Was a freshman.
But all the other guys around him, all the juniors and seniors, were Sark's guys, clearly.
I don't think there's they've Sark had some talent, which great. That Texas needs it. not that they were poorly talented, but my point is
Sark
just
crushed it recruiting at Washington. Remember, that was so disappointing. He was recruiting so well, and they weren't winning. That's why he got a lot of people forget. He was recruiting studs.
John, Tom Herman has won at a higher level, period. Now, you could argue, well, the Saban thing's real. Look at Cristobal. People know he was not going to be a head coach again until he got to work with Nick. And
Lane.
then obviously Lane. But I'm just saying that, and here's the other part of this. This is a very high-pressure job, like especially relative to what they've done. Like Alabama's high pressure. Okay, yeah. The standard's national championships. Texas is kind of SC-ish, where the pressure's high, but it's like, what have you guys really done?
I feel the job's a little overrated.
But with way more, but people care way more than on the West
I feel
Coast.
the job's overrated, but
Then you get paid.
Are there 5 more pressure-packed jobs? It's probably top 3.
They do pay commensurate with the pressure.
True, but I'm just saying, like, Alabama, Ohio State's probably really high. I mean, I think Texas views themselves as equals to these guys. Yeah, they don't hold a candle to the other team in their conference. It'd be the equivalent of like at the end of the day, is LSU Alabama? No, but they view themselves as equal. The difference is like LSU has been consistently good. Like Texas hasn't been consistently good, so Texas views themselves like, why can't we win just like Oklahoma? Because you never do. Like LSU at least can say like, we know what it can look like. I don't even we know what it can look like. Yeah, 13 years ago. Like this is the last. You guys haven't even been close to relevant. Your good teams are like 10-3, but I don't know. And you get mad. That's to your point. Like you get mad at that. Like does Sark have a 10-3 team in him? Like the first 2 years?
Well, Herman did. Herman won 10 games year 2. Got a contract extension. He got fired after 4 years, and he got a contract extension in the middle of it.
I'm not going to bet on the guy to fail. I'm not rooting for him to fail. I hope he does well. I'll be surprised if it goes well.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, part of this is that job is really difficult. But I mean, you are in like, what are the pluses? You are in Texas. You do have the reason. Part of the reason it's difficult.
That's the thing with like USC being in LA. Like if your program's not going in the right direction, like
no doubt.
A&M's there, Oklahoma comes through, Alabama comes through there now.
You have limitless funds. You got everything you need financially.
You have unlimited positives, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's just there is a lot of weight that comes with it, and the history matters less and less.
I think an underrated part about Texas, A&M being in the SEC, like up their stock big time.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when I think the number one program in Texas, I mean, to me, it's Texas A&M without hesitation. So Sark, where when Mac had them humming, there was not a close second, even when A&M was kind of cool, and even Leach with Texas Tech. Remember when Crabtree beat them, it was like, oh my God, they slayed the Giant. But they didn't become the Giant after that win when Crabtree kept his feet in. Remember that? And he tight-roped it. You were just David versus Goliath, and you got him, and then they just kept on being Goliath.
Right.
I don't know, like watching Jimbo against UNC, and basically, I think it's fair to say Jimbo is the second best coach if you just look at his body of work in the SEC. The only thing he has going against him, because his program's humming, their talent's stacked, their recruiting class are stacked, he's just in Saban's division. But, like, how is Sark going to be better than him? And in a weird way, even though they're not in Texas' conference, you know the way their boosters are going to kind of compare you to him.
Right.
So you're getting compared to Lincoln Riley and Jimbo Fisher, which Sark's just not as good as those guys. Like, we know for a fact.
But right? Going to Big 12 championship games is going to be a major upgrade for them on a consistent basis. If he can just do that, even if you can't get over that hump. You get
one
fired
thing that
for
would
not
help
winning
Sark
the Big
would
12
be for
and like
Campbell to leave.
Yes. But you get fired for not winning the Big 12. That's like 5 years. Like you just consistently make 2 out of the next 3 Big 12 championship games, which again, you fired Tom Herman.
You can do with Oklahoma. That's the nice part, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the Big 10 where like Michigan can't make it over Ohio State. But in their division, just the top 2 teams make it, which I like.
I appreciate Michigan being like, look, man, let's battle for second place.
Yeah, Jim, you want to stay? Jim, you want to stay? I just Corona, Zooms. I don't want to go on a search. Just fuck here. 2026. Yeah, you're good. I don't think as of recording this, Jim has officially signed it.
Is he going to parlay it into an NFL? He's going to try and get the Jets job.
I don't know, man. I just. The Jim Harbaugh experience from Michigan is just weird.
I wish they'd fired him.
It's crazy for them just sticking with him.
God, I wish they'd fired him so he could have been Saban's OC.
Yeah. I don't know.
That would have
what
been the
Jim
greatest
would do.
pairing of all time.
Would Jim be the first guy to lead a team to a Super Bowl and then become like an assistant offensive line coach? Would he get a coordinator job? Because he would not.
No, he wouldn't. That's what would make it so funny. Is he?
What would his position be? Like O-line? Yeah, I don't think it'd be quarterbacks. I think it'd be like O-line.
I
Could you
think
see
he'd
Jim
have to
Harbaugh
just
being
be
like
a
a tight
head
end
coach.
coach?
He would just he'd go back to San Diego or something.
I think he's just like take over high school or
Western
something.
Kentucky.
Jim is one of the rare guys. It's head coach or nothing.
That's
like,
right.
Could he do anything else? No, he can't. He couldn't coach a position? No.
And no one would want him to.
Yeah, no.